So today we're going to have a little shift, as you guys all know, in our Sunday school, our adult ed. Um, we we are very privileged to have Martha Tranto have agreed to talk this morning. Martha is, as you know or may not know, Martha was born and raised in River Forest, and she has been done almost everything you can do in this church. Taught many people many different things here. Been many different groups. The head of groups, hosted different things. Elder, deacon, you name it, she's done it. So and she's going to talk today about her most recent journey, the journey that she's currently on, and journey that most of us can learn from. So I'm going to take a quick prayer. Dear God, thank you for bringing us together as a church via Zoom or whatever it is. Thank you for the encouragement of meeting in person, but also thank you for the people like Martha who are really showing us how to live and how you can be involved deeply in our lives and help us understand what you want from each of us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, good morning, everybody. I've practiced this a bunch of times, being a teacher and conscious and conscientious about making notes and practicing, but it could go very fast because when a person's nervous, they talk faster. And I'm planning on edifying you, being vulnerable, sharing, and then having you have a question and answer time. But if I go short, don't feel gypped. It's just the way I put it all together and see it. And also, don't be upset if I look a little strange at times. Part of my problem, because it's stomach cancer, is acid reflux, and I occasionally have to burp, but it's not even a satisfying 14-year-old boy belch it out and be gross. It goes part way and then it gets stuck. And we had visitors yesterday and I was having so much burping. I thought, oh no, how can I even do tomorrow's thing? This is so that might be something you'll see. All right, I am going to start with something I read. Pete and I listen to Our Daily Bread. It's kind of cool because you can read it or you can go to it on your phone and pull it up and they read to you. So a couple days ago, it was from 2 Timothy and I really liked it. This is 2 Timothy 1, 9-12. By the power of God who saved us and called us to a holy life, not because of anything we have done, but because of his own purpose and grace. This grace was given us in Christ Jesus before the beginning of time, but has now been revealed through the appearing of our Savior, Christ Jesus, who has destroyed death and has brought life and immortality to life through the gospel. And of this gospel, I was appointed herald and an apostle and a teacher. That is why I am suffering as I am. Yet I am not ashamed, because I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. I have a really nice thing. I think I bought it. Remember Logos bookstore? I got this women's devotional Bible, and every few pages they'll have a little sermonette. And I think Judy Golds's mom has one entry in there. And with the Timothy one, on a page just across from it was something written by a lady named Doris Haas. And I really like what she said. How much lighter trials become when we realize God's grace is twofold. It is not only the happy ending, it is also the peace we can feel during a painful journey when we trust in God all the way. Okay, I'd like to open in prayer. Terry opened in prayer, but I'm also going to offer a little prayer. Dear Heavenly God, I'm so grateful for you and all that you've done for the last 13 months in my life. The fact that you're a steady, strong, important presence every day, every minute, every hour as I seek you, you are to be found. Be with me now, calm my heart, calm my flutters. Let my body cooperate so that I can share and be vulnerable and be transparent. Pour out from my head and my heart that which you want me to share. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Well, I'm looking at all these faces and they're all my friends, it feels like. So I think a lot of you know things, but I wrote down my life. I always was a believer. And I think I want to emphasize that. My parents moved our family from Riverside to River Forest when I was 4. My brother Ben was 2. And right away they hooked into the First Presbyterian Church of River Forest. Although both mom and dad grew up in Oak Park, and one went to a Methodist church and one went to the Presbyterian church. But they wanted it close to where they lived, and they chose to live in Joel Rainey's house, although it wasn't Joel Rainey's house, but it was 927 Jackson. And it was so handy to have Jackson Avenue be the street that I lived on, the street where my Roosevelt church, Roosevelt school was, and the tennis club and the church. It made easy wandering and getting to the places I needed to be. I had superior Sunday school teachers. They were so fabulous, including Mrs. Kathy Ball. It was very important to me. I had a Bible and I had it on a desk in my room. And we actually had little thin Sunday school lessons, and we'd have homework. I'm trying to think when that would have started, like in 3rd grade or something. We'd have assignments we had to do, and it was very important to me. We had wonderful youth groups, wonderful youth leaders. When I went off to college, University of Wisconsin, I sought out a church. I tried different ones, but I ended up at the Lutheran Church. And wonderful coincidence, a guy named Peter Tronto was kind of a hottie back then, still is. Also attended that church, and that was probably our first date. We did get married at 22, and I think the years between 24 and 27, we loved the Lord. We went to church, but we were not faithful. We would go when it suited us. And I regret that, but it was kind of the way things were. But then pretty soon when I was 27, we had our first child, Heidi. And from then on, it was very important that we went to church. We went on a regular basis. Most of you know that Heidi had a very long suffering from the time she was 23. For 19 years. She had many, many, many medical situations, 2 cancers, kidney failure, stem cell transplant. And through all those things, she especially, how unusual for a mother to have her daughter be the role model. But Heidi definitely showed me how important it is to trust in God, to turn to God, to read God's word. I can't tell you how many times I came into her hospital room or her bedroom, and there was a Bible open and her hand was on it, and she was studying, and she'd share with me what she felt God was teaching her that day. In addition to that, we had the real testing when Charlie Novotny at age 4 months had the horrific experience of inhaling his own vomit and really should have died, but God miraculously brought him through. He was in the NICU unit and on an ECMO machine for 13 days. Absolutely unbelievable. And God was with us every step of the way. And I think Laura and John and their faith did so much for their family. John's side were not believers. And it was very edifying and enlightening for them to see how much John and Laura just turned the whole situation over to God. Well, I like to summarize, and I could summarize 73.2 years of life as of last winter were charmed years. Those of you who know our family well know how blessed we feel with our 3 children and our 6 grandchildren. We certainly felt lucky to be able to plan. About a year and a half ago, we started planning our 50-year anniversary trip. Should we just go romantically to Paris? Should we take all 12 of us somewhere? And we ended up planning a 6-person trip, Pete and myself with our 2 children and their spouses to Cancun. It was to be in February of 2020. In January of 2020, I had slight feelings in my gut. Nothing horrible. It's just I wasn't regular in certain intestinal things, and things seemed off. So I got in touch with a gastroenterologist, Dr. Singh at Rush, and she was saying I should have a colonoscopy. I said, fine. Is there any rush on that? Because we are going to go away in February. And she said, no, no, no. From what you're describing, no rush. So we did our Cancun trip. It was memorable and wonderful. And got home. Sure enough, March, turned the calendar over, and everything went crazy with COVID. I remember March 13th. So I could not get the colonoscopy appointment, but Rush Hospital was very good at letting us know as soon as things became available. So as soon as I could get a colonoscopy, and then by then Dr. Singh said I should have an endoscopy, I had that in May. The results of it indicated things were not correct. They weren't sure exactly what was going on, and the best way was to really get in there. So June 22nd, this past June, at Rush Downtown, I had a laparotomy. And they could really get their hands in there and move everything around and look specifically. I was hooked up with Dr. Leslie, a oncologist, and Dr. Milliken, he was my surgeon. And the surgery went well. They got a lot of tissue, they sent it away. I guess it's very, very important with cancer to know where's the primary cause. So they were hoping to get a definitive answer, and it didn't come immediately, but something else challenging did, which was C. diff. C. difficile. It's a French word, and it just means horrible, horrible stuff going on with your gut. It was not pleasant. But as I was healing and I was allowed to take walks and start feeling normal again, I had 2 true God sightings. I'm sure some of you have had that in your life. And Pete and I were out walking, and a dear friend who's a physician happened to be going by, and he stopped and talked to us. And we explained that we were just at the point of having the laparotomy, waiting to find out what kind of cancer it is and get hooked in with an oncologist. I had liked Dr. Leslie, but I wasn't sure, and I was getting a lot of advice. You talk to anybody about anything medical, and if they have any connections they want to share with you their expertise and say, no, you should go to so-and-so. So this particular friend said, if you were my wife, or if it was me, I would want you at the University of Chicago. They are the top notch in trials and cutting edge stuff. I really think you should go there. And my head was spinning. We hadn't even found out what kind of cancer it was yet. But I was grateful. I felt God let this friend of ours happen to bump into us, because I never would have sought out his opinion. And I wouldn't have known that University of Chicago is such a remarkable place. So I had heard the name Dr. Rattain, and I wasn't sure how to get the soonest appointment. I mean, here it was January that I had sensations, May that I had hooked in with rush doctors, June that I had my surgery. I just felt time was ticking by. We got to get going. We got to get going. And it turned out this Dr. Retain has a wife who did downtown courses. I think it was through the University of Chicago. I'm not sure what higher knowledge place, but she was in a course with my friend, Julie Costanzo, and Julie Costanzo is our next door neighbor in Michigan. Small world that Mrs. Retain knew Julie Costanzo. And because of that, I was able to get an appointment with Dr. Retain on July 8th. And he was remarkable. I was so impressed. Now he's a general oncologist, but he wants you to find out exactly what kind of cancer you have, and he will direct you to the right doctor. So we had to wait, and tissue went here and tissue went there. And finally, by August 8th, a Dr. Catenacci, who is in the whole gut area of cancers, had an appointment with me. And I felt very confident. He was phenomenal. He was understanding. He had a plan. In fact, I felt at that point I was at a crossroads of 3 plans. One plan was to just stay with the rush doctors. And from what they explained to me, I would be getting a 2-ingredient chemo treatment. Okay. That's what they do for their rush people who have anything in that area. Dr. Catenacci had 2 ideas, the 3-ingredient plan and the 4-ingredient plan. And that day, August 8th, he spelled out the 2 things. Now, the 4-ingredient plan was a trial. And that meant we had to read 17 pages of documentation. And he wanted us to make a decision that day so they could set up all the appointments. And as I read those 17 pages and Pete sat with me and we were looking at them, oh my gosh, so many potential side effects. And many of them were the things Heidi had: neuropathy, all these different kinds of things that could happen with your throat, with your gut, with your limbs. And I thought, if there are all these potential things that could affect me, is this going to be a pleasant experience? And he did explain there's the 4-ingredient trial, and then there's the 3-ingredient normal chemo that he recommends. And ironically, 2 of the 3 ingredients in it were things that rush doctors also said. So I mean, obviously we sat in that little teeny 5-by-4 foot room down at University of Chicago and prayed, and we really had to make a decision right then. So I decided I'm not ready for all the possible things that could go wrong. I'm going to stay with your 3-ingredient idea. And they got me in. But even with the 3-ingredient idea, this chemo combination, this recipe, Dr. Catenacci said it would be every other week for 12 things. And if you do the math, that takes you 6 months out. You'd have 6 months of chemotherapy. There's a 5%, there was a 5% chance that it would help my life. It would make it longer. And it would maybe only make it 6 months longer. 5% chance by doing this chemo? That's 95% that it wouldn't. I was not happy about that. But I did have my first and only chemo treatment August 12th. And it was pleasant enough. It turned out I had a meeting with Dr. Catenacci first, so we were late. There were 50 little bays, little cubicles where people were getting chemo. Almost everyone was gone. It was 5 o'clock at night and they started me. So I had the chemo, it just drifted in. The actual having the chemo was not bad. And then you go home with something that you wear for 48 hours that's like a little squishy plastic football, and you wear it on your waist with a strap, and you keep getting more chemo for the next 48 hours. Well, the repercussions of having it and having it end were the bad part. I had a very large bloat in my stomach. I was very sick, very weak. I felt like a wet noodle. It was too hard to even hold my head up. I'd lay on a reclining chair back, and I'd spend most of my days just feeling horrible. And after a couple of weeks, I couldn't take it anymore, and we went down to the ER, and they really couldn't do anything. It's typical after chemo that you feel terrible, and I did. I felt absolutely terrible. And I thought, is this the way it's going to be? And this is just the first one. And I've heard that it gets worse. So they noticed the bloat and they decided they would do a paracentesis, which is they stick a needle in and drain you of the fluid. And in that first time, I had 10 pounds of fluid extracted. It was 5 liters. I watched them as the containers were filling up. And at the end of that, a lady came in who was going to explain to me palliative care at University of Chicago. And when she started explaining palliative care and hospice, I thought, I want this. I don't want to be a noodle for 6 months, maybe to gain 6 months more life, and who knows what the quality of life will be like. I was very intrigued with this whole hospice idea. And so I thought, I don't want this to be my ending, to just feel terrible, terrible, terrible. So we came home and we signed up. In fact, they came that evening from a hospice, the local Journey Care. But I must say, I don't know for sure, but I think that one chemo treatment was phenomenal. It must have done a lot, because September, October, and half of November, I was feeling much better. I was taking walks. My icky head was better. I was able to eat. I played pickleball. We got to go to the cottage in October up in Michigan, and I got to play tennis. And I was just feeling way, way better. And then our children decided, well, who knows? It's been such a, who knows how long I have, who knows direction it's going to take, who knows when it's going to turn. But they decided, let's do Christmas, December 5th. Our son in Ohio and his family with 3 kids works for Walmart. And so it's tricky when he can even be off. So they thought, let's go for the gusto. Let's celebrate your Christmas all together as a family of 12 on December 5th. So we did. And they came in town, and it was really cute. Before they'd even leave, they wanted to pick a next time. When can we come next time? And I was thinking, I don't know. You pick a date. I might be here. God hasn't given me a ticket that says Martha gets to go to heaven this day. So as I said, I've never died before. This is tricky to know how to relate and how to react to symptoms. But by then, eating was getting trickier. I found out spicy things aren't good. My hospice nurse comes once a week, and she was saying her mother has acid reflux, which I was suffering from a lot. But I'm on pills, so many pills. but 2 pills in the morning and 2 pills in the evening for acid reflux, and then a pill for nausea. But the pill for nausea also makes you constipated, so then I have to take something for that. And I'm trying to not take too many pills in case things get bad and I really need to lean on pills. So I'm trying to do the right things with my diet. So nothing too lumpy, and I chew things a lot, nothing too spicy, avoid dairy, avoid citrus. And I was complaining to a friend of mine, or lamenting how limited my food is, the things I can eat. And yet, if I eat, I have energy. Oh, and I forgot, I'm supposed to talk like this. Hi, everyone. At First Press, it's so nice to see you. Because people say, Martha, you sound so great. And so I think, well, maybe I should sound sicker so you understand that I am very sick. But I guess it's all those years of teaching school and using my voice. I only know how to talk in a loud, animated way. In fact, my daughter goes, Mom, you're talking too loud on the phone. But that's the way I am. And I do have energy, and I'm grateful for that. And when I eat more, then I have more energy. So I'm trying to eat. Um, Although my brother is very wise, and as our mother went downhill at age 89 and he had senile dementia, my brother, and there's 2 daughters and a brother, and I think my mom always favored Ben as far as the authority, and he is a doctor. That's good. She should respect him. But at some point, he said, Mom, you don't have to eat. You know, your life has been blessed and wonderful. You can let go now. And so my brother said that to me. He said, when it gets too rough, you can just stop eating. But so far, I have an appetite and I have had goals. And so I'm still, excuse me, eating. But my girlfriend said, you know, Mart, if it's the lumpiness of the food, and we'll never know. Am I eating too fast? Am I eating too much? Is it too lumpy? Is it just a fluke that day in my stomach? My stomach doesn't give me a report saying, Martha, you should not have eaten that. So my friend said, what if you tried baby food? And I don't know how many of you have had to buy baby food recently, but they have something like peas with green beans and asparagus. And you add a little salt, and it's pretty good. So some nights Pete and I have had salmon with mashed potatoes, and then I'll pull a baby food jar off the shelf. So I have a variety of things. And this morning I had baby food rice cereal with baby food peaches because it is so mushy and bland. And I want to be able to talk to you guys without burping a lot. So I do what I can do to keep nourishment. Well, I'm up to January. Oh, we decided I should divide, or I decided I should divide things up. My mother didn't have much valuable jewelry, but luckily, with 5 granddaughters and 2 daughters, daughter and daughter-in-law, and then Charlie, I have enough to give one special ring to each one. And then I started dividing up handmade sweaters in case anyone would like them. It's kind of cute. I love those zippered fleece jackets. And I had 5 of them. So, and each of the granddaughters is the right size except Brielle. And so they each got a zippered fleece. And I've been giving away things. So not only to my own relatives, my sister came in town, and luckily she's my shoe size and basically my size. And so I gave her a lot of stuff. It was nice to be able to give things away in person to people. And I'm in 2 book clubs and 2 Bible studies and a Mahjong group. And I've had these people come over with masks on, and I had my dining room table covered with just costume jewelry. I'd say, take a scarf, take a set of earrings, and I'm giving stuff away like crazy. Well, I was giving away so much and then I didn't die. But I still have enough. I'm fine. Although I did give away a gold cross that I bought in Cancun to celebrate our 50th. And I asked for it back from my friend. And I've labeled a bag and it says, Pete, give this to Pat on my death. So she's going to get the cross back. But I also feel like a metaphor for what's going on right now, because I've wanted little projects I could do. And to just watch TV is fine, but I like to do it when I can knit. So I'm doing these little projects, little baby sweaters, little scarves. And I feel like saying to God, how much yarn do I need? How many more things can I do? Because I'm not going to make a big sweater. I won't get done. But he hasn't told me, so I'm just buying small increments. I finished a little girl sweater last week, and I'm halfway done with a little boy sweater, and they're going to be in a drawer. And Laura and Pete will know. I have at least 3 people I know whose daughters or granddaughters are having babies, so they'll give them away. It'll give me something to do. Well, I have also sent away stuff. High school friends, college friends, relatives. I think I've sent away 30 boxes to people, and how fun to be able to do that while I'm still alive and know that they are gonna, some of them have put them on and said, oh, I'll wear this forever, or I'll think of you. At this point, in the winter, we've definitely incorporated Caring Bridge. I've been receiving letters and cards and flowers. I've had a few visitors. I have great peace. Even at the very beginning, when I first heard stomach cancer, it's stage 4 metastasized stomach cancer. It was okay. I guess that's what's going to happen. I have cancer and I have great peace about it. Our daughter, I don't know if someone gave it to her, or she bought it, but Randy Elkhorn's book, Heaven, has many, many good sections at the end, chapters, answering questions like, in heaven, will we be ourselves? What will our bodies be like? Will we eat and drink on the new earth? Will we be capable of sinning? What will our daily lives be like? Will we desire relations with anyone except God? Will there be marriage and family and friendship? So this has been a great resource to know a little bit of what it could be like in heaven. But I have peace about that. I know where I'm going and I'm confident. So that is not a problem. I think for me right now is when and how much deterioration will there be? What will it be like? I don't want to be a burden. So that, and of course, no one can tell me for sure. It's all, well, Martha, everything is individual and you'll just have to see. All right, I guess I'll have to see and wait. For a while there, especially in December, I was dropping out of activities. I wasn't feeling as well or as strong. But then I felt better as I ate more. And so I got back in my 2 book clubs and one of my Bible studies, and I play Mahjong every Friday on Zoom. So I have been adding things back into my life. I have had a paracentesis in August and November and January, and next Friday I will have another one. They say if you need to be drained once a week or every other week, that's often enough that you should get a Pleurax, and that's a little tubing that just stays on you, and you can, or your spouse or your hospice nurse can drain you. But my doctor, Dr. Pevrov, who did the paracentesis last time, said there's chance of infection. And with me going, well, I was going every 12 weeks. And he said that was too long. I truly, Terry Studer said, am I going to stand up and show you my body? But it's a scary body. I'm glad I have clothes on in this winter because my arms are truly like Auschwitz victims. I'm 20 pounds down. And yet my stomach is about 7 months pregnant looking. It's very, very big. And being that big, I think can affect the workings of my stomach. And so maybe that's making it harder to digest. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, they're going to drain me next Friday. We do enjoy seeing Laura's family. We see them about once a week. They'll invite us out. And I've asked the choir if anyone feels like it to share, and some of you do, and I'm so appreciative because I think at the end, to just be able to push a button on my phone and hear, let's say, Jess sing to me, or many of the others who are sweet enough to record, means the world. I think at the end, Jim Becky had the choir come over and sing to him, but it's COVID. You can't have the whole choir come anywhere. So the fact that a few people recorded their own voices and I'll be able to listen to that is going to be very, very special. I did have some goals. One was to be able to sit at Laura's house in their new family room with a fireplace and a fire in the fireplace. And we got to do that on Super Bowl Sunday. That was so special. And John had Mason do the brickwork for the fireplace. And the top beam, the mantle, is actually from 1885 from the farmhouse that is our cottage up at Sequanota before they tore it down. This was a farmhouse that was converted into a cottage. And my mother saved, well, 5 beams. 2 of them she made into a coffee table, and one she has as the mantle up there. And John, our son-in-law, asked if he could have one because he saw there were 2 beams still in the garage. And so their fireplace, if you saw it on Caring Bridge or Laura posted it on Facebook, I did get to sit in front of the fire. In fact, I think we've been over there 2 or 3 times and I've experienced a fire in the fireplace. I also wanted to teach Laura, she knows how to knit, but I wanted to teach her how to make Christmas stockings because I've made maybe 30 stockings for different people, definitely for the 14 people in our family. And I didn't want that to get lost when I'm gone, not to be able to have Isa's husband or Isa's children, have these sentimental Christmas stockings. So Laura and I, maybe you saw it on Facebook, sat together and I finished teaching her how to do that. So check mark. Okay, Martha's done that. Huge was to finish this Heidi memoir, the book about Heidi's life. And it is not great literature. I don't want any of you to get thinking it's going to be, oh, fabulous, but it is the Heidi story. And I decided to do it as 5 voices: Mart, Pete, Heidi, Laura, Tom. Each chapter is a different voice. Now, luckily, for some reason, and I don't know why, because I'm a math person, I'm not a literature person, but when she had each of her 2 major cancers, I journaled. And so I could just go to the journal and I'd look up what I thought on a particular day. And so I was able to incorporate a lot of my first person reflections. Also, Heidi sent us a lot of letters, and for some reason, I saved them when she wrote us from college and when she and Jeremy were married out in the state of Washington, and she wrote us. So they're firsthand words of Heidi's talking to us about what life was like. And that, I think, is very telling. There are also 18 photos in the book of Heidi through the ages. So it felt really good to have that actually be published. It's interesting to have Pete and Laura are thinking, Pete, do you want to come with Laura's family on spring break? It's just the end of March. Maybe he will. They've made the reservation so we could go with them. There's a wedding of a nephew in May in Pennsylvania. Will I be around? I don't know. It's up in the air. And then Charlie got gypped. Last year was to be his 11-year-old trip to Florida. And they're going to do it in June, Laura, Pete, and Charlie. And we don't know what's going to happen. But this whole experience has had me reconnect with grammar school friends, college friends, sorority friends, my people that we know up in Charlevoix, people I did teaching with back in the 70s. It's just amazing how all these people have come forward and connected. Certainly to have cancer during COVID is very hard because it's not the same. People just can't drop by. I have to feel that they're in a, what would you say, in my bubble? Have they been isolating enough? But I certainly appreciate hearing from them. I'd like to read something that a friend sent me that I really appreciate. And I'm looking at the time. I was worried that I wouldn't have enough to say. I guess you let me open my mouth and I can go and go and go, but I'm almost done. Each morning when I wake, I say, I place my hand in God's today. I know he'll walk close by my side, my every wandering step to guide. He leads me with the tenderest care when paths are dark and I despair. No need for me to understand if I but hold fast to his hand. My hand in his no surer way to walk in safely through each day. By his great bounties I am fed, warmed by his love and comforted. When at day's end I seek my rest and realize how much I'm blessed, my thanks pour out to him and then I place my hand in God's again. And the whole idea of being blessed, oh my goodness. I have a friend that came all the way up from Florida to see me one more time. This was back in September. And I thought the end was near. And she brought me a gift of 12 minutes of many photos being shown of us and our friendship through the ages. What a blessing that was. Then my brother has put together a video compilation of Martha from the time I was a year old through recently. It's about 8 minutes long. And I get to see it. And I haven't died yet. I don't have to peek over a cloud and watch the memorial service of Martha Tronto. I get to see it ahead of time. And then Ben also put together a photo gathering, and Pete gave him some of his favorite pictures of stuff, and that's all together. And I get to see it over and over as many times as I want. So I felt very, very blessed to be around. I mean, some people are in car accidents. Some people are struck with cancer and die sooner. And look at all the blessings I'm getting. One unique thing, and I got this, I don't see Rosemary Bone, but Roger Bone, her first husband, when he was dying ahead of time, gave a talk that at our church we showed, I don't even know, it was 15-foot high screens of Roger Bone talking about how important God had become in his life later in his life. And I was very impressed that he, even though he was dead at that point, was talking to us at his memorial service. So back in August, when I was feeling really crummy, my head was wobbly, I said to Pete, I know the 5 things that I think are important in life. And now you guys have got to go to the memorial service to find out what they are. But I sat there and I recorded each of the 5 things, and it exhausted me so much that then I'd have to rest and gather my courage and my strength. And I had notes, but I didn't do a verbatim. And so what a blessing that is. How many people know ahead that they're going to die and can speak to the audience that might be listening to what they're going to say? So questions that I have: how can I project a positive outlook when facing death? And I think certainly the blessings of 72 plus years, because my birthday is next week. I'll be 74. And how God has always been there for me has really helped me get the perspective I need. All right. One more thing, and this is the very last chapter in the Heidi memoir book. And I got it from Tom. Tom, just a little bit after Heidi died, this was February of 2016, really had a dream. And I wish I was more techno savvy. I know there's a way when you're on Zoom to go to share screen, but I think I'll just read it rather than show you Tom speaking it. But our son Tom told us this. And he said, I want to share a dream with you that I had today. I woke up this morning. It was like home movies, like Uncle Ben does at beach picnics. And in the dream, I could see the sand and the water in the background, a little bit of trees and some shadows. Two people had come up near it, and Uncle Ben must have said, come up into the light, come into the light. It was Heidi and Dad. They moved closer to the camera and actually down a little bit in the sand, and you could see them in the light. And it was one of those moments at the beach picnic when the sun is going down and the light is just golden, shining behind them. And they looked up at the camera and there was no sound. There was no audio recording in the film. And they just smiled at the camera. They looked so good and so happy and so healthy. He must have said, okay, great, I got the shot. And so they took off running towards the water. Dad and Heidi were running, and Heidi's hair was great looking, and obviously she had two legs, and she went running after him. It was just a golden moment, and it was like I got to watch it on Uncle Ben's camera, an old movie. I figure it represents Heidi being with a Heavenly Father, just being with both legs, being able to run, being with God. I got a glimpse of heaven. I want to share that with you. It was really good. And I don't think we all get significant dreams, but that was so significant. I think God gave that to Tom and Tom gave it to us. So with 15 minutes to go, do any of you, I see you're all been muted, and maybe Julia and that right now can push a magic button and unmute you. And I don't know how she's going to let people ask questions.
Y'all can unmute yourselves and raise your hand if you want, or just speak.
Martha, has anybody sent you anything or written you anything that you thought was really good? So like if we have someone in your situation in the future, something that we could do or send that might be encouraging?
Well, for me, it is always beneficial to see what people appreciate in my life or what we've shared as far as activities. So when some of these people come out of the woodwork that were college friends or grammar school friends, and they just open up and say, remember when we, blah, 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 that's very special. But also the people that I see all the time, I have a best friend since we were 4 years old, and Susan lives in Denver, and she calls about once a week and we FaceTime and we just talk about recipes and what's happening in her life. And she treats me like a normal person, and we laugh and I share things, but she allows me to be open, like she'll text me and say, can you talk right now? And if I feel really crummy, I'll say, I really don't feel like talking.
His head's the only one in here.
Yeah, mine is top.
So being open and sharing.
Okay, remove it.
Oh, Martha, I have a question. So is there something that you know now that you wished you had known or would have liked to have known at the beginning of your diagnosis? It's something that would be kind of similar to on the lines of what Terry just asked. Something you would want to know at the beginning that you maybe wouldn't know unless somebody had shared that experience with you.
Well, I'm never going to try and second guess it, but it was poor timing that I didn't go in right away. Who knows? You know, I can't say, oh, I should have gone. If I had the colonoscopy earlier, they would have found something. Why did I think Cancun trip was so important? Because I couldn't know that March 13 COVID would shut everything down and I couldn't be tested. And then it just took so long. I think I did write in my notes and I didn't say it. I think if you're a young person, go ahead and have the chemo. I would never say don't have chemo. It's just weighing all the situations. And I have heard from people who have had their grandpa, their uncle, their husband do chemo and they're miserable. And so the last few, months, life did not have the quality that maybe I'm experiencing now. But always people preface or at the end say, but it's an individual thing. How I'm reacting might not be the same. And maybe if you talk to me in 3 weeks, I'll be miserable and go, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I need this to end. So definitely go along with medicines, but it's, oh my gosh, it's so tricky balancing all these things. So I really respect and have benefited from having hospice come once a week.
Thank you.
Hi, Martha. I have a quick
Hello.
question.
Yes.
You talked about the God sighting and seeing your friend, the doctor friend. Do you have any other significant God sightings throughout your life? One that stands out that you might want to share?
Oh, wow. Well, meeting Pete Trano was a God sighting. I think we come from very different backgrounds, but we're perfectly matched. And he's been a real trooper and so gentle and kind. And I mean, what a drag being stuck in a condo with a dying person, you know? So I try and make it somewhat enjoyable. Other God sightings. Just so many people have come into our lives that have benefited us and matured us and helped us on our walk. We have dear, dear friends from Charlevoix. Heidi and Rob grew up, well, they raised their family in Minnesota, but they're just the perfect couple where they're mature in their faith. And just yesterday I got a note from her and Heidi shared how during these times I need to keep the faith and keep trusting, and in the middle of the night when I have doubts. So she's often bringing good words to me and they'll FaceTime with us. I don't know if you call that a God sighting, but the fact that Heidi and I have known each other, and I didn't name our Heidi for Heidi Stevenson, but it certainly was a factor. Heidi and I have known each other since we were 1.5 years old playing in Lake Charlevoix. So that's a good thing. I don't think you call it a God sighting. That's hard.
Martha, Allison has a request. She wants everybody to unmute or give you 10 seconds here to unmute. Everybody has to unmute. This is important.
Oh, I know.
Some of you probably don't know how to unmute, but you know, it's a small thing. So this is nearly impossible to do on Zoom because there's different times, and stuff, but we're gonna try this, okay? We're gonna sing happy birthday to Martha.
The choir people.
Okay,
How about June leads us?
here we go.
June.
Okay.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy birthday, dear Sonora. Happy birthday to you.
And many.
Many more.
That's why we have
You
considered
can see why they never tried doing choir on Zoom. Together.
Oh, thank you.
Martha, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your journey. Your matter of factness, your acceptance of the current reality is helpful. I think our culture is very death aversive, and with modern medicine, we've learned to expect, that we're going to live long and pain-free lives, and that's not always what happens. So your faith and your just your generosity and sharing your life, your things, is a really good role model for what lies ahead for us, even though it seems so abstract when you're not there.
Yeah.
So,
It wasn't-
thank you for adding to our journey.
Well, you are welcome. It's not what I expected. I thought eat right, exercise right, have a good mental attitude, and everything will be golden. And God's plan isn't necessarily our plan. When we think of a happy ending, do we think 82, 89 years old is the right amount of time? But this way, my children and grandchildren won't see me senile.
Here's a bonus.
And I certainly saw my mom deteriorate. My mother-in-law was fine mentally, but she had a lot of physical problems with diabetes. So life was not good for her at the end. So we can't pick, and it's an acceptance thing.
Right, exactly.
Should I leave you with a joke?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Do you have any more questions?
The other question I have is, do you have a different perspective on heaven?
Yeah, I'm confident that it's going to be wonderful, but I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but that's okay. I'm not going to keep reading and thinking and stewing. I'm just going to be excited. I mean, the very first thought when I knew for sure I was going to die was I get to see Heidi, Mom, and Dad. And that is so exciting. That is just so exciting. So that's a positive about heaven. Okay. I don't have too many dreams, and I was writing them down. I have them on a pad of paper in the kitchen, and yet I was hoping for more because sometimes they're really significant, like a dream where my dad is in it or a dream where my mom is in it. I really like, and I hope I don't show any disrespect, but I had a dream, and it was early on. It was in the summer, and it was when I knew I had cancer. And there was a knock at the door of our condo, and I went, and I think Pete opened the door, and in walks Susie Kovic.
Oh, wow.
It was so special,
Oh
and
my
she
gosh.
looked fantastic. She had this kind of chrome colored gorgeous thing that you'd wear to the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes. And it had a high sheared neck and then a cutaway, and it was satiny and beautiful. And her smile was beautiful. And she just had this big smile, and she came through the threshold, and I went, Susie Kovic. And it made her smile even broader. And I went, oh my gosh, Susie Kovic. And she came a little closer, still didn't say anything. And I looked up and down at how gorgeous she looked, and I said, do you think I can get that dress in a different color? What in the world? My unconscious mind cared about the color of the gown that I get up in heaven. But the fact that I knew she was gone, and the fact that she came to my house and smiled and was so happy to see me. And of course that broke the spell. It wasn't like then she grabbed my hand and said, now we're going to heaven. But God has a sense of humor. I don't know.
Oh, my
Yep.
God.
That's good.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. That's awesome. Thanks for
I'd
that.
say that's a God sighting too, Martha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Besides the Susie sighting.
Oh, Susie sighting.
Right.
Oh, that makes me smile.
Just thank you for your wonderful, faithful heart, Martha, and thank you so much for sharing.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for your friendly faces. I didn't know who would show up. I thought, will it be 3? Will it be 50?
We love you,
Close to
Martha, and we
50.
love you, Pete. And Pete, we're gonna be with you. Whenever this finally, goes down, the Lord will be with Martha, of course, and we will be with you, Pete, too. We're all here.
Happy day.
Oh, you know what? I never looked at the other batch.
We'll do it quickly.
Arthur, there are almost 50 on here.
All right, but if you
okay.
count faces, we have 66.
Look at all these other nice
Wow.
people.
I'm just glad this is being recorded, Martha, so we can watch it again. And also so Steve Kovic can watch it because he's not with us right now.
Yes, I thought the same thing about Steve.
And-
Steve, we love you too when you see this.
Right. Right.
Well, thanks, Martha, and thanks for everybody for coming on, and have a happy birthday.
Thank you. I
Thank you
will.
so
It'll
much.
be,
Happy
Um,
birthday.
Thank you, Martha and Terry.
Thank you.
coordinating.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Amanda. Yeah.
Hi, Amanda.
Bye.
Amanda, we're all praying for you.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye-bye.
Love you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Love you
so
all.
much.
Bye.